Ever hit the last night of a cruise, open your folio, and see a gratuity adjustment? Yeah, I've stood in that guest services line. I'm ranking the cruise lines I've sailed, worst to best, based on what actually decides your week. Food, crowd flow, service, and the little surprises that show up late. Because a small charge feels very different when your card is already on file. By number 6, you'll see why smooth tech can beat an unlimited buffet. That exact folio moment is why number 10 is last. Tiny aside, so the comments don't throw tomatoes. Same brand, different ship, and itinerary can feel totally different. Bottom of the list is number 10. The line that made me take refund-proof screenshots like its travel insurance, policy, timestamps, and yes, my folio. MSC is my number 10, the only line that had me saving screenshots like I was building a case file. It started with a trust break. I was promised onboard credit before the trip. I board MSC Divina out of Port Canaveral to Ocean Cay, walk up to guest services, and get no record in the system. From that point on, anything that should have been a quick fix turns into a rules-first conversation. Then the whiplash hits. The ship looks premium, big atrium energy, but my main dining room pasta showed up cold, and the buffet pizza was somehow the best thing I ate. And by day 3, it's the vibe that wears you down. Family density, plus that one main pool deck, means loud by default. Quiet is something you end up hunting for. Add announcements repeating back-to-back in multiple languages, inconsistent service, an automatic service charge sitting in the background, and last night, the folio can hit like a jump scare. On MSC, surprise has a habit of arriving late. Credit where it's due, the shows can be excellent. A lot of the big productions lean into acrobatics and circus-style acts, so language doesn't matter, just talent. If I'm managing the cruise, it's not a vacation. Carnival is the only line where I've packed earplugs and still felt underprepared. And I swear there are 2 voices in your head on Carnival. One voice is like, this is why people love cruising. The energy is social, everything feels alive, and it's ridiculously easy to fall into a good time, especially if it's your first cruise and you just want fun to find you. The other voice is like, cool, but why is my sea day a group activity? On the older ships, one pool deck turns into the living room for a few thousand people, and everybody's talking through a microphone. You're trying to grab a chair, there's a game on the mic, kids are doing laps, and the crowd stacks so hard your relaxing day turns into a pep rally you never RSVP'd to. The twist is the newer Excel-class ships. Mardi Gras, Celebration, Jubilee do fix a lot. More space, more zones, and the ultimate playground pulls some of the chaos away from the main drag. It genuinely helps. But the baseline volume is still the DNA. Even a big private island port day can feel peaceful. And it's for the simplest reason. Thousands of people are off the ship. The second everyone comes back on board, the speakers remind you what you booked. Carnival is number 9 for me because you end up managing the vibe. And if you'd rather the ship do the calming for you, that's where the next line starts feeling like a relief. If Carnival is manage the vibe, Holland is the first time you realize you've been holding your breath. Nobody's yelling into a pool microphone, and it stays that way. If you need the ship to get louder after 11, Holland can feel like it's turning the lights down. If you cruise to recharge, it's pure relief. People joke it's for grandparents. What it really is, calm by design. Daytime feels unrushed, you can sit somewhere without it turning into chair hunting, and choosing quiet doesn't feel like you're missing the whole cruise. I've done a morning coffee on deck, a short talk that made the next port actually click, and nights that ended with the rarest cruise feeling, genuinely rested. Alaska is where Holland makes its strongest case. If your sailing includes Glacier Bay, it plays like a live national park documentary. Ranger commentary, glaciers front and center, everyone watching instead of stampeding. Even the Denali add-ons feel like fewer moving parts for you to juggle. Holland is number 8 because calm is the product, and calm has a ceiling. After 10 or 11, the ship powers down in a way that's perfect for noise-sensitive, port-first travelers, and a deal breaker for anyone chasing midnight buzz. And then the list swings the other way. A brand I expected to hate, and one ship won me over. With Margaritaville, the ship matters more than the brand. If you shop this line by price alone, you can accidentally book two completely different vacations. Paradise is the cheap escape, but you feel the age immediately. I opened the cabin door and it had that early 90s. This ship has lived a few lives. Vibe, tight flow, dated rhythm, and those little moments where you're quietly lowering expectations just to keep the day smooth. Islander is the one that made me take the brand seriously. Not because it's loaded with jaw-droppers, because regular stuff finally clicks. I sat down at dinner expecting fine, and halfway through the meal I realized I wasn't grading anything on a curve anymore. The service moved, the food tasted intentional, and the whole thing felt functional in the best way. And there's a small grown-up flex most people miss, quietly making noise. It's intimate, it feels like an inside joke instead of a loud gimmick. And once people on board figure out it exists, you start hearing sold out like it's a daily announcement. This line can feel like a steal, or like a time capsule with a bar tab. Islander made it worth talking about. I'm walking down the hallway with my hands full, and my cabin door just opens. No keycard, no pocket digging. It's one of those little moments where you go, oh, this ship is actually paying attention. That's the Princess Medallion vibe. It cuts out a bunch of cruise friction, getting into your room, pulling up plans, ordering something without turning it into a scavenger hunt. I've had nights where I'm parked in a quiet corner, tap for a drink, and it shows up without me doing the whole, where are you sitting, what deck, or what landmark dance. I felt that most on Diamond Princess in Japan, which surprised me since it's not a shiny new megaship. The week ran organized, sleep was ridiculous, food hit better than I expected, everything just clicked into place without me babysitting the experience. The only drag is the bundle mindset. Princess loves packages and upgrades, so if you hate vacation math, you'll feel that gentle checkout screen energy hovering in the background. Coming up is the line that removes kids entirely, and the dining setup feels different by lunchtime on day one. A server set down the Korean barbecue, smiled, and walked away. No upsell speech, no, just one more upgrade. For a second, I almost didn't know what to do with my hands, because I'm so used to dinner turning into a checkout moment. And that's the real price of Virgin. It doesn't nickel and dime you with fees, it does it with empty slots. The whole ship runs differently. There's no classic main dining room funnel where everyone gets pushed into the same 2-hour window. You bounce between restaurants, and the week feels looser, in a good way. Meals feel like choices, not assigned shifts. Adults only changes the tempo too. Less traffic, less negotiating for space, fewer little interruptions that yank you out of vacation mode. And the party ship label is selective. Scarlet Night can get loud and splashy, then you step out and nobody acts like you committed a crime. But if you board thinking you'll figure it out later, the calendar will humble you. So I do one thing before I even step on. I lock a C-Day dinner time I'd actually be happy with. Just one. That single click decides whether you're eating at 6 like you've got a curfew or at 9:45 like you lost a bet. And I make a clean call on Scarlet Night. Either I'm in or I'm out. The only wrong move is hovering in the middle all week with permanent FOMO. That's why it sits at number 5 for me. Real freedom, great food, and a week that quietly rewards people who book early. If you cruise solo, you're about to see the most love and annoyance combo in this whole ranking. Oh, you're cruising alone? Pay double. That's the default on a lot of lines. Norwegian is one of the few that actually breaks that rule. Studio cabins, a studio lounge, solo pricing, that doesn't feel like a punishment. Most of my cruises are solo, so that matters more than any water slide. On board, NCL feels glossy and busy in a different way than Carnival. It's not pool deck chaos. It's more like you walk 30 seconds and you've passed 3 venues, a neon sign, and a specialty restaurant that looks way too expensive for the fare you paid. No formal night pressure, no stiff schedule energy. Freestyle means you can live your week without asking permission. Then the trade-off shows up. Not in a dramatic moment, more like a slow drip of choices. The included experience is fine, then the add-on menu keeps winking at you. Specialty dining, better packages, better spaces. Even certain shows and experiences feel like they're standing behind a velvet rope. You can ignore it and still have a good trip, NCL just makes it annoyingly tempting not to. You can have a great cruise here, but the best moments often feel like they're standing behind that velvet rope. The jump to number 3 is wild. Suddenly the WoW stops asking for upgrades. I walked into Central Park, on a ship. On the right, Royal Ship, it's real plants, real pathways, and for a second you forget you're floating. Then you turn a corner and there's a surf simulator, a rock wall, and a theater that feels way too big to be at sea. Royal's whole thing is simple. They build a city, then dare you to get bored in it. And it really is the line that feels most cruise in the best way. If someone tells me, I've never cruised before, I just want the version that makes sense. Royal is usually the answer. Neighborhoods instead of one giant deck, enough choice that you're not trapped in one vibe, and enough entertainment that a weak port day doesn't wreck your week. Even across older ships and shiny new ships, I still trust one thing. They know how to feed people. That matters when you're paying 2026 cruise prices. But a floating city comes with city rules. Royal is at its most crowded when everybody runs the same schedule. The 7 o'clock show, the 8 o'clock dinner, the 9 o'clock breakfast. You hit those peak hours and suddenly you're convinced the ship is packed, even if it's really just synchronized humans. I treat Royal like crowd physics. I flip the timing, I'll grab the earlier show, eat later, and do breakfast while half the ship is still asleep. Same ship, totally different week. Royal isn't always crowded, your calendar is. And that's the deal. If you hate doing even a tiny bit of rhythm planning, Royal can wear you out. If you don't mind moving 10 degrees off the herd, it's one of the best all-around cruises on the water. So I put Royal at number 3, the most complete big cruise experience. Even if you're sharing it with 5,000 of your closest friends, 2 lines left, and they're the kind of good that makes people argue in the comments. I've watched grown adults set alarms on vacation just to grab an adults-only dinner reservation before it disappears. Miss that window, and you're suddenly eating at a time your body thinks is illegal? On a ship with Mickey on the side, that's Disney, my number 2. Disney charges Disney money, then spends the first day making it feel justified. Service is on point, your room feels thought through, dinner doesn't feel like a cattle call, and the nightly show has no business being that good for something you didn't pay extra to see. What Disney really does is separate the traffic. Families get a whole world that actually absorbs kids instead of just entertaining them, which changes the noise level everywhere else. And if you don't have kids, the adults-only spaces feel protected, not like a corner with a sign. Even the cabins feel built by someone who's traveled with real humans, split bathrooms, smart storage, less weird bottlenecks. Rotational dining is another quiet flex. You rotate restaurants, but your servers rotate with you. So you're not spending your evenings negotiating reservations. The only time you feel the scramble is if you're chasing the upcharge, adult dining Palo, and on some ships, Remy. Blink and those bookings are gone. Even the included stuff hits harder than people expect. Self-serve sodas on deck, soft serve. Room service that doesn't feel like a fee ambush. Then you hit Castaway Cay or Lookout Cay, and the whole experience unclogs in the best way. Why it's not number 1 for me? If you're not using the family magic, you're paying a premium for a vibe you might not need. And my number 1? It delivers that premium feeling without the character tax. But it's been flirting with losing what made it feel truly premium. The first time I sailed Celebrity, I realized I'd stopped clutching my bag like a lifeboat. I wasn't bracing for the usual friction, I was just moving. And at one point, a crew member said my name like we'd met before, and I remember thinking, okay, this is premium. Celebrity nails something most lines can't fake. The ship doesn't feel like transportation. It feels like a vacation. On the Edge-class ships, one detail says it all. Magic carpet, that moving platform on the side of the ship, plus a cabin that reads more boutique hotel than cruise room. The vibe is modern, the spaces feel adult, and the whole week runs quietly, precisely, without you having to manage it. And the spell only cracks when I hear myself ask a question I never want on a premium line. Is that included? Not once. Enough times that it adds a little noise to a trip that's supposed to feel effortless. It's not about everything costing extra. It's about the feeling creeping in. Celebrity is still my number 1. When it's on, nothing feels more seamless. My only move is to decide early what matters to me, Wi-Fi, drinks, whatever, and lock that in. After that, I treat the rest like background. The less you keep rechecking what's included, the more Celebrity feels like the crown again. If you've sailed Celebrity lately, did it still feel truly premium? Or did you catch yourself asking, is that included? More than you expected? 10 lines, 1 pattern. Your week is either work, or it's actually vacation. I've had cruises where I was basically building a case file just to feel safe, and I've had cruises where I forgot my phone existed because the ship didn't make me babysit the details. So tell me this, do you agree with MSC at the bottom? And if Celebrity keeps creeping up on fees, who takes the crown for you? Want the spicier version? Say the word and I'll rank these by ship class next, because that's where the real drama hides.